Yes, the Macintosh SC from 1988. If you never heard of this machine, then you're totally missing out. This is one of the classic compact Macintosh systems that changed the face of computers for generations to come, with a simple-to-use GUI interface and a mouse. While its intention was for education and business purposes, it actually had an adequate library of games for the system. Maybe someday I'll do a video with more on it. In any case, the game for today's video is Falcon 2.2, released in 1987 by Sphere and Spectrum Holobyte for the Macintosh. This was one of my very first computing experiences back when I was around 5 years old. I had this along with another game, which is within my hazy memory as of this point, unfortunately. Though as a kid, this had me intrigued and I played this quite frequently back then. Anyways, you have the option to running it from the floppy disks, or you can copy the files from Disk 1 and Disk 2 to the hard drive, and launch Falcon accordingly. Now, like all compact Macs of the era, the display is only in monochrome, so you won't be getting any colors here. And since there is no video output on this machine either, the camera will just have to do for this video. Anyways, once the game loads, you're greeted with a radically catchy and explosive-packed 80s tune. After this, you'll then be prompted to insert Disk 2 in order to continue loading the game. Disk swapping, yay! But if you install it to the hard drive, then you should be good to go otherwise. Anyways, after some load time, you're finally jumped right into the roster list, where you can select which slot you want to use for your game progress and enter your name. Next, you're given a selection of missions to do, as well as adjusting the rank of difficulty and number of MIGs that you'll encounter. And finally, before takeoff, you can determine which load will be more appropriate for what mission you've selected. You have a selection of bombs, missiles, and extra fuel tanks. Just be careful not to load your aircraft to the max unless necessary. This is known as a Cat 4 configuration. No, not that cat, and I'll explain why later. Anyways, once you're set, you'll be jumped right into the cockpit of an F-16 Fighting Falcon, ready for takeoff. At first glance, you might be thinking, well, what the balls am I supposed to do here? Well, the info can be found in this nice beefy manual here, or if you just don't want to waste any time here, then there's always the quick reference. And this is where the controls of this game get a bit complex since you have a number of keys to press in order to make things work. But I'll give you a simple rundown on what to do from here. To take off, you must first release the wheel brakes and just hold down the plus key to increase the throttle to 100%, and you should be rolling. If you try to increase the throttle without releasing the brakes, chances are you'll damage them. Once the airspeed reaches 150 knots, pull back on the stick, and you're airborne. Now, I would like to apologize for the lack of frame rate, as it isn't the best on this machine, as it's only a standard 8MHz 68000 CPU and 4 MB of RAM. So, what can you do here? Well, the gist here is to follow your waypoints to your mission objective, complete them, and return to base. That's it. It may sound simple, but it can actually get quite complex at times depending on your mission, unless you really know what you're doing. But if you don't give a crap and want to shoot down some MiGs, then by all means do so. Just quit to the menu and select from different maneuvers to start on via the ACM menu to get into some dogfighting action. Make your choice of what weapons to use, chase down the bogey, and blast him out of the sky. Though in my case, unless if you get lucky with the machine guns, my preferred weapon of choice would be air-to-air missiles, presuming that you've loaded enough in your aircraft. Yep, it's as simple enough as it is. Kill or be killed.
Warning, 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 warning. Pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up.
Now, a couple of things to touch on here. Because this is an advanced flight simulator from back in the day, there is a lot of info to learn about in order to get the best experience possible in this game. Hence the reason of the beefy manual, which is pretty sweet to have otherwise. But still, unless you know what you're doing, you're gonna be here a while in order to get used to flying an F-16 in this game. Also, let me discuss the controls a bit further. The flight controls are a bit too sensitive, most notably on the keyboard. If you press up or down just a tad bit, you won't necessarily climb or descend by one notch. and even if you do it as light as possible, chances are you'll be all over the place. And as far as turning, it's not as precise as it may seem. To change your heading, assuming that you're on level flight, you have to turn your wings to about 3 notches in order to change it. But here's the kicker: if you only need to turn a teensy bit, once you start turning, immediately press the opposite directional key to get to that heading, and that's only going to get you to about 2 degrees further to the left or right at minimum. Yeah, it's kind of screwed up if you ask me. There's also the option of using the mouse, but it's just about as a bit difficult to get used to. And unfortunately, I don't have a joystick for this in order to determine if that method is best or not. So the best advice I can give you is to choose whatever controls suit you best. And lastly, I don't actually have any footage of this, but as far as a Cat 4 configuration, if you turn your aircraft upside down, then you will drop towards the ground and risk a crash. So if you have a heavy load of weapons that you need to carry for your mission, be sure that you make some easy turns so to not screw yourself over. And that's all I'm going to cover here for Falcon 2.2. Back when it was new, it was one of the most impressive games ever made, and an absolute nostalgic experience. Nowadays though, there are better combat flight simulators out there that you can indulge yourself into. And I know I've only scratched the surface of this game, but really, if you want to experience this game for yourself, then I suggest playing it. But nonetheless, the reason why I reviewed this game is because of nostalgia. And I'll thank my beloved Macintosh and Falcon for bringing me the computing experience that led me to being the PC gamer, and will continue to be on to today. If you enjoyed this quick review and want some more nostalgia, then feel free to check out my channel. You can also subscribe if you want more in the future, and you can check me out on Twitter, DeviantArt, and Twitch. And tune in next time for more nostalgia overloads right here on DGR. Thanks for watching.